This episode of the Downtown Rams podcast is brought to you by our proud sponsors, Thrive Fantasy, Built Bar, and ExpressVPN. Now, using promo code DTSN, our listeners can get $20 bonus cash on a deposit of at least $20 on Thrive Fantasy, 10% off their Built Bar protein bar order, and 35% off their ExpressVPN annual subscription. Once again, all you have to do is use the promo code DTSN and tell them the Downtown Rams podcast sent you. Now enjoy the show.
Aaron Donald creates the fumble. Goff goes crashing into the end zone.
It is intercepted by Jalen Ramsey.
Robert Wood, touchdown. Picked off by John Johnson. Touchdown, Tyler Higbee. Cooper Kupp plucks it out of the air. Henderson with a good run and a first down. Still on his feet. Touchdown, Van Jefferson.
Everett in stride. Wow!
LA will play for the Lombardi.
Hi guys, welcome back to Downtown Rams. As always, or I shouldn't say as always, because I was on a little bit of a hiatus, but I am back. I'm the co-host, Alexis Kraft, joined here with my co-host, Jake Ellenbogen, and we come to you in the darkest of times today. The Rams lost 20-23 to the New York Jets, who had a record previously of 0-13, and now they are 1-13. Let that sink in. The Rams lost to the New York Jets, the worst team in football, who had an 0-13 record. It doesn't get worse than that. I mean, that's not even an opinion. That is statistic. You cannot do worse than 0-13 at this point in the season. We handed the Jets the first win of the season and became the laughingstock of the NFL. 31 other fan bases are laughing in our face right now, except for the Jaguars, who are worshiping the ground we walk on because we, in all likelihood, just handed them Trevor Lawrence with the number 1 overall pick in the next draft. Now, listen, there's no need to beat a dead horse, Jake. I mean, we all get it. I think the Rams get it. We might beat the dead horse a little bit anyways, because I think that there's a lot of questions as to why this happened. And, you know, maybe it's not even worth exploring that. But here's what I'm going to say as a brief overview before we really get into it and I light everyone on fire and make this episode holy hell. Here's the reality of this. If the Rams were a 4-9 team and we went and played the Jets and lost, that would be a different story. The Rams were 9-4. The Rams were, and potentially most likely still are, a playoff team. So there is literally no excuse. There's not one. We can try looking for one. We can try to dissect why this happened. But, you know, as I shared on Twitter yesterday, the Rams deserve every single ounce of criticism that they are receiving from their fans and everyone else. It is totally deserved. This is a team that should not be losing to the Jets. Like I said, if we were 2-2 and we had 2 wins, 3 wins, 4 wins, and we were not having a good season, and then we went against a team that hadn't won any games and lost in this fashion, it would be different, but it's not acceptable from a team that considers themselves a playoff team and potentially Super Bowl team. Super Bowl teams don't lose to 0-13 teams. They just don't. So before I go any further, Jake, what are your overall thoughts about the game against the Jets and just on the current state of the Rams?
I mean, I don't even know what to say. I mean, right before we went on air, I was just like, you know what, Alexis, you do your thing. You nuke everything, because I literally have no idea how to start a podcast coming off an 0-13 team beating you. I mean, I was happy for John Franklin Myers, the friend of our show. I mean, it's huge for the players, but I mean, Jets fans are even furious that they won this game. This is only for the players. This is for Frank Gore, somebody that, you know, it has to make the Rams fans and obviously myself just, you know, hate it, because Frank Gore's somebody that just would rip through the Rams on the 49ers for years, and he'd win all sorts of games. So to have him catch the final, you know, that pass that was the final nail in the coffin, I mean, it had to obviously definitely hurt, you know, watching that. But I just think, this felt like a game all along where the Rams were going to just eke out a win. But I kind of thought about it, and, my confidence in them, I think was a little overblown, because I think the Jets came out. It's not that I think the Rams didn't come out, prepared or anything like that. Obviously, they could have been more prepared. I don't think that they didn't get ready for the Jets game. I don't think that. What I think is the Jets watched themselves get absolutely throttled by Seattle, 40-3. And I think, the combination of that, the firing of Greg Williams, I think they just kind of opened up, and you knew they weren't going to go 0-16. They have been in pretty much half of their games. They score 8 straight weeks in a row on the first possession. They're not a team. They're a weird 0 whatever team, because they start off games well and they can't finish. Well, in this one, it got close, but they finished and they held off the Rams' valiant comeback, which it's kind of pathetic to say that, but but I mean, what I want to say though is, Alexis, the Rams with Sean McVay, I'm not saying just McVay, but the Rams in the Sean McVay era don't come back. I think we need to stop having confidence in them coming back and winning a game. They didn't do it against the Bills, regardless of the call that I thought was terrible. They didn't do it. They didn't do it against the Jets. They didn't do it in the Super Bowl. They don't come back. They're either winning at half and they're 34 or 35-0, or they're in a 3-7 to maybe 10 point, margin of error where they can come back from 10, but a 17-point game, a 13-point, they don't come back from that. They don't win. And this is just another example. I mean, nobody in their right mind would have thought the Rams lose based on, that, yeah, sure, the Cam Akers call that, it gets it called back, it's 2nd and 14 or what have you. Sure, that was demoralizing, but they still had, great field position. They're down 3. You kick the field goal with Matt Gay. You get him in range. His career long is 58. I didn't expect them to get 0 points on that drive. And I didn't expect Jared Goff to throw, underthrow a bomb to a tight end in isolated coverage when Cooper Kupp was wide open to get 5 yards when you only needed, to convert a 4th and 4. So,
well, here's the part where I start to lose some people. But here's the reality of this situation. You talk about the Rams not being a comeback team, and to me, that is correct. And I don't want to be one of those people that's like, well, maybe it's a culture issue. But here's the reality of it. You're right. The Rams haven't been a comeback team under Sean McVay. And something that I've said this season, when you look at, Dolphins games against the Dolphins, games against the 49ers, the Rams, when they go into games that everyone thinks that they're going to win, games that they should win, games that aren't even up for debate, they lose. They either don't prepare, they get overconfident, and they go into the game thinking that it's going to be easy, and they somehow forget that you still have to make plays to win the game. And that's just the reality of it. That's happened every time this season. Every game that they've lost this season, except for the game against the Bills, because the Bills are a very good football team, the Rams win into those games thinking that they were going to win. And I felt like it was obvious. When you look at this game against the Jets, it was almost like the Rams got confused anytime the Jets made a play. Like, they had no idea what was going on. It looked like they expected the Jets to go in there and just not know how to play football. And what ended up happening is the Rams looked like they didn't know how to play football. I mean, the Jets wide receivers, which in my opinion, the Jets have one good wide receiver in Denzel Mims. I mean, the other two, up for debate, were wide open. It was almost like sickening to watch. They were wide open. They looked very confused. Like, they looked like they expected the Jets to go in there and sit down on the field and hand the Rams the ball. It was sick. It was, like I said, this isn't a game that we could even defend losing. There's no defending this. There is literally no defending losing against the Jets. There's none, especially when you're the Rams. Again, it's not like we're the Jaguars or an NFC East team that went in to play the Jets and we lost. And people are like, oh, that's understandable. The reason that we are getting so much flack from everybody, yes, it's because it's the Jets and there's literally no excuse, but it's because we're the Rams. We are a playoff team. We are most likely, unless we play like we did last night, going to make the playoffs. It's not acceptable. And Sean McVay said that he's sick to his stomach and the players, they should be. They should be, and they should sit with that feeling and not allow it to happen ever again. I don't trust that they will based on their track record this season. But let's get into Jared Goff. Okay.
Oh,
I made an analogy to you today that it was almost like I feel like the Rams are in a rebound relationship with Jared Goff. Like, we were so defeated from our Case Keenum and Nick Foles era that then we got that pick and we saw Jared Goff and we were like, oh my God, this is going to be great. And he was good for a little bit. He even brought us to a Super Bowl. But then reality sets in and you start to see what he actually brings to the table. And you're like, oh, wait, this isn't all that I thought this was. This isn't good enough. This is not acceptable. And that is what we're seeing happen with Jared Goff. The honeymoon stage is over. People want to talk about his accolades and all that. And I don't necessarily think that is any credit to Jared Goff. They talk about him having, four straight seasons with wins. Had he won, he would have been the third most winning quarterback in Rams franchise history. But I don't care about any of that because none of that to me translates into what you actually see on the field. That in no way reflects the way that he plays on the field. He is not it. He's not it. Now, Jared Goff has the potential, as we've seen, to be an okay starter in this league if everything else around him clicks on all cylinders and is working smoothly and the play calling is just right. Then yeah, he's great. Yeah, he's pretty good on play action. He could do it. But he does not, he doesn't have the ability to put a team on his back. And that is almost always what you need from a franchise quarterback. And so I'll let you give your thoughts on Jared Goff, but I think it's pretty obvious after this game, like the performance was just all telling.
Well, part of my issue is I think it's really hard to evaluate Sean McVay as a play caller because you and I have been calling for him to give up the play calling and focus on just, being a head coach and give it to Kevin O'Connell. But at the same time, I'm starting to wonder how much this is on McVay when, he talked about the reads. Jared Goff had 2 reads. He had the deep throw to Gerald Everett on the 4th down play. And he had the over the middle 5-yard, like right over the middle to Cooper Kupp, wide open. And he chose the deep ball. And here's why I had so many issues with that. First off, on 3rd and 4, the throw to Cam Akers, I forget who tweeted at me, but they said it was like Jared Goff closed his eyes and threw it up to Cam Akers. And it honestly felt that way because it wasn't anywhere near him. 1. And then 2, the 4th down throw is so bad for multiple reasons. 1, you just need to get the first down. That's all you need. The clock's ticking. So right off the cuff, you get the first down and then you can continue moving on in the drive. That's the first reason why that was so bad. The second reason is because it was a poorly thrown ball. It was underthrown, and Marcus May, obviously, he made a solid play on the ball, but it was thrown pretty much right to him. He could have picked that off if he wanted to. Third, you had Gerald Everett. Now, I like Gerald Everett, but Tyler Higbee, the 6'5" Tyler Higbee, I'll take, that frame if I'm going with that, that deep ball. Or I'm just not throwing a 50-50 ball because I don't trust Jared Goff to do it at all the entire game. So why would I trust him in the final moments? Oh, and the last reason why it was so bad. The Rams, I don't care if they're playing the Jets or the New England Patriots or the Kansas City Chiefs. If you want to win a football game, you have the ball and you're down 23-20 and you have the ball within, say, the 40, 30 yard line where they are on the opponent's side. Run the clock out. Why are you trying to get that touchdown there and keep all that time on the clock for the Jets, who actually moved the ball decently well against the Rams defense in this game? Why were you trying to do that? To me, you get the first down, you run some clock, and you get in the end zone for a touchdown or you kick a field goal to tie it up. But you want that clock to go down. I mean, throwing that touchdown didn't make any sense. Obviously, you want the touchdown, but I don't know. It was ridiculous to me. And part of that, I do think it's never fully on Jared Goff either. I mean, Sean McVay, shame on him for running 15 times with Cam Akers and 1 time with Woods, 1 time with Brown, and 1 time with Henderson. They ran 19 times for 6 yards per carry. So 19 for 114 yards, and they're a top 10 running game in the league. So, keep in mind, Jared Goff, his shortcomings are basically masked due to the fact they used the play action passing attack so well because they established the run. In this game, even when it was close, I know it got out of hand a little bit, but it was always, close until like the end of the first half. And to me, I'm sitting here and I'm like, why do the Rams barely run the football in this game when it's close and you're at home? I mean, just run the football. Give Goff some opportunities. And, they were running the football well when they wanted to and when they actually wanted to run. And look, I'll be honest with you, the offensive line, for whatever reason in this game, struggled. But I think there was a reason. I think people were really questioning how big, how good of a player Quinnen Williams is. I think you got your answer. I mean, he's a game changer. He really made Blythe and Corbett's life hell throughout the whole game. And notice when he went down, that's when the Rams started to mount a comeback. So I do think there is a significant issue with that in this game. You're not going to win football games if you can't protect your quarterback. You're not going to win football games if you don't go with a balanced offense. You're not going to win football games if you go away from your brand of football, which you are a run-first style of football team that wants to basically operate out of play action, and you want to win with your defense. And I think in this game, it finally hit Sean McVay head on. The defense only gave up 20. We were talking about the defense playing horribly. Yes, to their standard and to who they were going up against, they didn't play as well. But we take the defense for granted. They held Sam Darnold to 207 yards. He didn't throw all over them like everybody's saying. They sacked him twice. They held Frank Gore to 2.6 yards per carry on 23 carries. Yeah. They held the Jets to 3 yards per carry, and they held them under 100 yards on 31 carries. They didn't allow 100-yard receiver. The leading receiver was Jamison Crowder, who had 66 yards on basically a 24-yard gash play. 24 of that came on the, out of the 66 on one play. So this defense wasn't up to their level, but they played good enough to win this football game. At the end, they didn't get the stop, sure, but the offense failed. And this has been happening, but the defense has bailed them out. And this time, with no turnovers to force, the Rams were unable to get over this hump. And this needs to be kind of a kick in the ass for the offense to be like, look, you're not going to win a Super Bowl with just a defense. I know we use Trent Dilfer and we use those different quarterbacks. Well, they won with a defense. Yeah, but their offense had to score points. 20 is not enough. I mean, it's just not. So, hopefully what I'm hoping is that this game, and I feel like we've said this before, but I'm hoping this game is finally the game to just nail it right into the offense and just let them know, wow, we really have we've come a long way with this defense. We're not holding up our end of the bargain. And, I think a lot of that is due to Jared Goff because I think you have a lot of talent that is being held back. But regardless, this offense has to get something going. And, of course, I don't know if you saw the news, but they just announced that Cam Akers is going to be out for Week 16 with a high ankle sprain. So that literally is one of the worst injuries to have because that does not go away, for a while. It tends to linger. So the Rams could be without Akers in the playoffs. They also have to make the playoffs too. Right now, if they were to win, they're in. If they lose out, they have an 89% chance of making the playoffs, but it's still something to keep in mind. But yeah, losing Akers, I do think, is really going to hurt this team because, I think Darrell Henderson can get it going, and I think it'll be good for him. But I just don't trust McVay to stick to Henderson. I think he's going to try this, committee backfield with Brown and Henderson and stifle the offense.
Yeah, well, I mean, I disagree with you on the defense point. I do think that the defense let us down.
They absolutely did in the final moments.
Well, right, but 20 points to the Jets, that is not okay. And I'm not saying that that's what you're saying, but I'm just saying that, like, I feel like, people were kind of like, oh, well, our defense deserves better. Not this game. Not this game, they didn't. This was a full-scale operation fail. That's what this was. That's not me being dramatic. This was the New York Jets, who were 0-13, the hands down the worst team in the football league, and we went out and played worse than they did. That's not acceptable from a team that expects to make the playoffs and expects to be considered Super Bowl worthy. It's not. It's not okay in any facet. And, when we talk about the offense, here's my question. We have the talent. We have it. We have the talent. We have Cooper Kupp. We have Robert Woods. We have Tyler Higbee. We have Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson. We have pieces, Gerald Everett. We have the talent, so why isn't it working? So we have two options. It's either Jared Goff, or it's the play calling, or it's both. I tend to think that it's both. Now, I don't, this particular loss, I'm not putting all on Jared Goff. I don't think anybody is. I think, like I said, this was a full-scale, operation fail. This was just bad on every single level. And for people who are like, oh, Rams fans are the worst, they're so negative. If there was ever a time to be completely disgusted with your team, it's right now. If there was ever a game to act like this, it's right now. And they're totally deserving of it. This was every single person on this team should be called out after this game. And the first person is Sean McVay. Because I honestly think that the play calling, we talk about this a lot. We think that he should give up the play calling. The play calling in this game is no exception. It was pretty bad. You start with him, you go to Jared Goff. You mentioned that throw to Cam Akers, but there were several. There was another throw, and I forget who it was to, but Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp were wide open. And it's just, we could beat a dead horse all night. But what I'm saying is if we go into the rest of the season in the playoffs, especially next week against the Seahawks, and do anything remotely close to what we did against the Jets, we are going to get slaughtered, especially by the Seahawks.
I will say this. It seems like people are really quick to just this season's over. They can't win a Super Bowl. They can't make the playoffs. I mean, they have 11% chance of missing the playoffs. That is very, very small. It's possible, but a lot of stuff has to happen. Look, the Rams aren't going to lose the next two games. They might split them. They might even sweep them. I think they're more likely to sweep than miss the next two games, to be honest with you. Because, look, the Seahawks, they had their game against the Giants. And, you look at, what was it? The Steelers, they had their game. Well, they're having their game right now as we're recording. It's 17-0 Bengals. Wow. There have been teams that have had off games. I think the problem with the Rams is that they do not sustain winning streaks. And I wouldn't be shocked if they go and win two straight and then get bounced out in the playoffs. They're the only team, I think Blaine Grisak pointed out. He said that they're the only team in the playoff hunt right now that hasn't won three straight all season. I mean, that's concerning. And I think people who say, well, we're used to worse. So, I mean, I'll say this. If that is where it's come to, where you're just like, well, the so-sar Rams were so bad that I'm just thankful for 9-5 right now, then I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you have to expect, this is, by all accounts, okay, here's what I'm going to say, Alexis. I don't care who likes it. When the Rams play their best versus any other team's best, they will win 100% of the time. They are the best team in the league when they play at their best, because I don't think anybody else is as good as they are when they're clicking. The problem is they haven't put together a complete game in all three phases the entire season. We saw glimpses of that against Seattle. We saw glimpses of that against Tampa, but they haven't put it together. We saw it against Washington, but they just haven't put together a full, all three phases, team dominant win. And I think that is the thing. When you look at this Jets game, it's not that they lost the Jets. It's the fact that they didn't blow the Jets out that has people pissed. I don't even think people are as mad that they lost the Jets. I think they're more mad the Rams didn't destroy them. Because I think either way, people were going to be mad if the Rams won this game 24-23. I think people looked at this game as this is an opportunity to get the offense back into scoring over 40 points. We got really... we took it for granted in 2017, 2018, how easy it was to score points. And now it seems like all of a sudden, this is not an offensive team. It's a defensive team, which now in this game, oddly enough, we took for granted how good the defense has been this year and how much the defense has bailed this team out. And that's the crazy thing, Alexis, is I can say in one hand that this is by far the best team when they play at their best. But I can also say on another hand that they can lose to anybody when they're not playing at their best and not even at their worst. I mean, there are teams in the league that would kill to have the offensive performance the Rams had, and it wasn't that great by any stretch. So, scoring 20 points isn't going to cut it when you're a playoff team. But, I mean, this isn't even their worst. We've seen their worst. We've seen Goff throw 4 interceptions, turn the ball over 4 times. I mean, and look at that game. That was an 11-point loss to Miami in a game that they probably should have won because the defense was that dominant. And so I actually want to bring something up to you. I don't know if you saw the Arizona and Philly game, but it just something about watching Jalen Hurts being a second rounder, being in the same position, essentially, as, Carson Wentz is in the same position. The Eagles are in the same position as Goff and the Rams, my point. And I find it really interesting because the Eagles went out and they got this guy in the second round before Wentz had his major struggles this season. It's almost as if this could end up being a trend to me. Because I think the way Jalen Hurts is playing right now, he's 1-1 as a starter, but he looked phenomenal against Arizona and he was phenomenal against the Saints. I get it's 2 games, but you watch the film and there's no way you can tell me that okay, he's not special. Okay. He won't last in this league. I don't think so. 'Cause some of the stuff he's doing is just simply, he's ahead of the curve. So would I be insane to say that the Rams in the second round of the 2021 NFL draft could take a quarterback?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards it because I think that 2 things can happen. Okay, you have Aaron Rodgers and you have Carson Wentz. The Packers drafted Jordan Love in the first round. The Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts in the second round. Now, obviously, I'm not I get that there's a big disparity in talent between Aaron Rodgers and Carson Wentz. Aaron Rodgers obviously knows that he's worth more, as bad as that sounds, as a quarterback than Carson Wentz is. Okay, I'm not trying to say that they're equals in that regard, but I think that when you have great quarterbacks and the pressure is put on, okay, the Packers brought in Jordan Love. Aaron Rodgers wasn't happy about it. If Aaron Rodgers had played bad this season, I guarantee you the Packers would have thrown Jordan Love in. Okay, as good as Aaron Rodgers is, the Packers would have done it. It happens. If Aaron Rodgers had started off the season going 0-6, 0-7, yep, believe me, he would have been pulled. Okay, but Aaron Rodgers went out there and he performed like he always does. In fact, even better. Aaron Rodgers is having arguably an MVP season. Carson Wentz had the pressure put on him. They brought in Jalen Hurts. They kept Carson Wentz as a starter, and look at what he did. I think Jared Goff falls more into that camp. And what I'm saying is I think when the pressure is put on a quarterback, they will either rise to the occasion and play even better, or they will completely crumble. And what I would be interested to see is if the Rams went out and took a quarterback in the second round, Zach Wilson, although I don't think he's going to fall to the second round, or maybe a Mac Jones or somebody like that, I don't care. I would want to see what Jared Goff does. And I think that putting the pressure on Jared Goff says a lot about the organization, because when you look at the Eagles organization, look at how much money they gave Carson Wentz. And they were basically so fed up. The fans were so fed up. They said, listen, we don't care how much money that we owe you and that we guarantee to you. We're still taking Jalen Hurts and we're still going to play him over you. See, to me, that shows an organization's commitment to the fans and to winning. I wonder if the Rams would do the same thing. Now, I know that a lot of Rams fans are like, you're being dramatic. We're 9-5 now, whatever. I don't care. Jared Goff is not playing well. We are not 9-5 because of Jared Goff by any means, even remotely close. So I would be interested. I would be totally okay with the Rams doing that. Now, I get that we don't have a first round pick. I think it would be different if we did have a first round pick next year, and then we could take the quarterback in the second round. But I don't know. I'm leaning towards taking a quarterback next year. I don't think it could hurt. So we'll see.
Well, I'll tell you this. If Trey Lance is sitting there in the second round, I pull the trigger. It's like when I mean, it was early on, but when I said Patrick Mahomes, if he's available in the second round, the Rams need to draft him. This is before he got the first round buzz. I still felt like they should have taken him if he was there, before everything. If Trey Lance is there, I think the thing that I have, my biggest issue with Goff is that he isn't like I feel like the league is turning into you need a mobile quarterback in order to succeed. And people can say what they want about Tom Brady, yes, but he's also 43. Like eventually he's going to be out of the league. Aaron Rodgers, that's his game. You don't need to be a track star. You don't need to be Lamar Jackson, but I need you to be able to move. And there were times where it's like Goff, when he steps up in the pocket, everyone's like, wow, he's got great pocket presence. When he throws a dart on the line, wow, that was such a great throw. That's why we have him. But then when he there's a bad pass, the first thing I hear is, well, the receiver slowed down. It's like, no, you have to be consistent in your thoughts. And to me, Jared Goff is not the same quarterback he was in 2017 and 2018. I mean, it's pretty obvious. 2019 and 2020, he's arguably on par. And I'll be honest with you. I mean, I agree with you in this sense that, I'd explore the opportunity if someone comes up. I think Desmond Ridder might be a great option with maybe the third round compensatory pick. The kid out of Cincinnati, dual threat quarterback, 6'4", 215, pretty much Jared Goff's size. So I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at right now. But I also am in the same camp that I believe the Rams could get off to somewhat of a hot streak in the playoffs. And we've seen them do this before. When the year they went to the Super Bowl, I mean, they didn't look so great towards the end of that season, if you remember. And so I remember everyone was crowning the Rams after they beat the Chiefs, and then they went into their bye. They came out of their bye, and they looked really lackluster against the Lions. And then they didn't beat the Eagles, and they got absolutely killed by Chicago's defense. The game was close, but Jared Goff threw like 4 interceptions. So we've seen them play this bad towards the end of seasons, and we've seen them also go to the Super Bowl in those said seasons. That's why I'm not counting this team out. You can call me crazy, but I do think this team has just as much of a chance as making the Super Bowl as anybody. I don't think this is a big dog type of year. We don't have a top dog in the league. The Steelers at one point looked like it, and now they're losing 17-0. The Bengals threatening to maybe lose 3 straight. Kansas City would be probably the only answer at this point, and I'm not sold on them. They don't win games convincingly to me. They're always they stick around, and they're not as explosive of an offense as they have been. The Packers aren't as physical of a defense as they have been in the past. And I don't think that they don't scare me either, except for Aaron Rodgers. And then I look at the Bills, and I mean, the Rams almost beat the Bills, but right now the Bills might be the best team in the NFL, as crazy as that sounds. So my point is there's not a top dog. And for those of you that are just, discounting the Rams entirely out of the idea of winning a Super Bowl, I disagree. We've seen Jared Goff play well. All he would have to do is play well for a limited amount of time. If they, make the Super Bowl, wipe that slate clean, They've done it before to get there. I think they could do it again with that defense.
We'll see. It's like I said, we could go on forever about this. I am as disappointed as anybody about this. I know you are too. I got texted by everyone in the planet yesterday, people I had not talked to. My ex texted me about the Rams score. My grandfather, may he rest in peace, his friend texted me about the Rams score. Like it's literally like people who I never talked to reached out to me about the Rams. And I was like, you know what? The way that I looked at it is I was like, bring it on. I deserve it. Like the Rams deserve it. Like this is not up for debate. Like let me have it. I guarantee you, anything that anybody said yesterday about the Rams, I'm a billion times worse. Like it was totally deserved, but now we have to get over it, move on, not make the same mistakes. We can acknowledge that it was literally a hellfire, like just an absolute dumpster fire of a game. We messed up. The Rams messed up. There's no excuse. We move on. We go against the Seahawks in a divisional game next, and we will have the preview show on that. But I'm sure that we will learn from our mistakes and play better. And if we don't, then that's another discussion. But all right, I think that's going to do it for us. Thanks for listening, guys. We're sorry that this wasn't a happier episode and that we couldn't have basically had nothing to say because we blew out an 0-13 team as everyone expected. So but whatever, it is what it is. I have faith that we will turn it around against the Seahawks. As always, if you like what you hear, please like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at @TheAlexisCraft. You can follow Jake on Twitter at JKBoganDTSN. We'll be back later this week with the preview episode. But until then, take care and stay safe and go Rams.